Welcome, Law Firm Leadership Collaboration Circle friends. What are some good things that have been happening in your business or your family or, with you personally or generally in the world? Anyone have some good news to share?
Well, mine might be similar to someone else's on this call if they get so personal, but I am successfully moved into my new apartment. At the beginning of the pandemic, I realized early on I would need to, as like a single woman with a cat, that I needed to have some more human interaction. So I moved into a place with roommates, loving it so far. It's I used to be across from Forest Park, now I'm across from Tower Grove Park, where my favorite farmer's market is, and I sometimes go with Jamie and her kids. So excited about new beginnings. I feel very refreshed and have somehow been very productive with work too through all of this. So I feel just very productive and happy. So
Awesome. Anybody else?
Well, I finally got a little bit of comfort level on traveling, and I think I'm going to make it up to the lake.
Yay.
That I've been going to my whole life. Finally, my brother is up there right now, who is in Austin, lives in Austin. But
Awesome.
What lake are you going to, Randy?
So it is a lake in west central Minnesota. It's Marion. There's actually two of them in Minnesota. So in our county, of the 11,000 or so lakes that Minnesota has, we have over a tenth of them in our county. So we're mostly water. So there's one of the mini lakes there.
Well,
But yeah, so he's up there right now. Last weekend went and met him on the way up in Lincoln, Nebraska, which surprisingly to many of us was very serious about all the health issues. And my brother reports that Minnesota, because we're so rural, we had some concerns as well there, but they're pretty serious there. So that gives me some good confidence to go up there and spend some time. So hopefully I'll be able to get up there a couple of times yet this year. So
that's
the best thing I can report. Yeah. So, and the fishing's really good. The fishing's really good too, because we've had a few hot periods, but it's been pretty cool too. So, which is really why I go.
That's awesome. I feel like it's a good thing. I'm happy to be traveling. I like traveling. I did go to California and kind of tested the waters, a couple weeks ago. All went well. I'm going to Texas to visit a couple clients. I've just kind of realized, our sales process is very inhibited if I can't travel. Our clients are spending a significant amount of money with us to partner with them and help their businesses run better. And during this time, it's been even more critical and important that we're partnering with them and helping them through, the uncertainty and the challenges and the changes. And when our clients are making spending decisions that are significant, not significant meaning we're not talking about $2,000 here, right? We're talking about $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $100,000 on accounting services or whatever it is. There's that trust factor, right? When you're in person and you can actually sit down and talk about it and really work through what their needs are. And so I'm going to Texas Sunday through Wednesday to meet with two of our clients, one in Dallas, one in Austin. And I just kind of decided, I'm going to be as safe as I possibly can. I'm as likely to contract the virus, on a plane as I am in the grocery store, in which I'm still going to the grocery store. So I'm just going to be as safe as I can. And it's just an important part of our business, right? And our business continuing to thrive is really important to our clients' businesses continuing to thrive, which is really important to our economy continuing to thrive. So, made that decision, and that's a good thing to me because I am more engaged in life and alive when I'm traveling, whether it's personally or professionally or a little bit of both. There's something about the way that my brain is wired that I like that. I like to get on the road. I like to travel. I like to engage with people. So that's a good thing for me. So I'm excited. I'll be going down to Texas. Too bad I didn't plan out another day. I could have hopped over to Houston to see Erica. Next time.
I thrive on travel too, and that's really affected me. But for whatever it's worth, my brother says Austin's really been pretty good. They're really pretty. They've been locked down pretty good there, and he himself has been pretty much quarantined the whole time. They'll be teaching remotely. So, and my nephew will be going to school remotely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
for
Wow.
freshman year in college.
A lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
any other good things before we jump into talking about our topic that anyone felt compelled to share?
I'm actually at home. So if you hear this like boom, crash, clang, it's because my friends are just like dealing us a solid by fixing our roof. So
Oh,
I live in the country, so everybody knows how to do something ridiculous that feels like magic to this tip. I'm like, what does that even mean? You can fix our roof. Please do that. But yeah, so get
awesome.
fixed, and there'll be a little bit of noise, but it's a good thing.
Aren't we
Yeah,
all used to background noise in this new environment? It's like
it's true.
it's like we almost don't even have to say anything anymore. Any
That's
noise that you hear in the background just feels normal.
life.
I know, I know.
I,
Cool.
I was
Anything else?
I was sitting outside for a call last night, and it got a little buggy, and I'm of course swatting away bugs and things. And finally somebody's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry. Apparently I was creating too much movement, but trying to keep the gnats off of me." So
That's I totally, yeah, that's funny. Swat, swat, swat. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. So last week, or Erica, did you want to share something good? I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure I didn't pass you up.
Oh, yeah. Something good going on in my life is that I'm adjusting to the Zoom hearings. And luckily, one of the attorneys now, who started about 6 months ago, she loves having the hearings. And that takes a lot of pressure off of me because I felt like I was having to do everything. And
Yeah.
so I'm loving
Yay, that's awesome.
it.
This is so weird. I'm getting like some emails from people that they're saying they're stuck in a waiting room for this meeting, which isn't that weird. Let me try to like resend out the Zoom link real quick because all of a sudden I just saw like the third email pop up. Let me send out a new link. Weird. Mike's been trying to get in. I thought we looked like a little bit of a lower crowd than we usually have. I was like, "Where's Mike?" Anyway, our usuals weren't here. So, okay, cool. Well, let's dive in. I just sent out the new link to people, so we might have some people that hop back in. But I'll do just like a quick intro to why we thought we wanted to talk about this topic. Last week we were talking about billing best practices and, what are some really, we know that our billing in our firms is such an incredibly important component to our business. And it's the lifeblood of our business because that's how we get paid, right? And it's also how we take on risk if we don't word things correctly. And it's how we communicate with the clients. It's how we show the clients our value. What goes into our billing and how it goes into our billing is incredibly important. And I think most lawyers and most firms that I've been connected with do really value the content, the look, and the professionalism of the bills, and the time spent on making sure, that our hours are lining up with our notes and that the value is being communicated. But something starts to break down when we start thinking about the business process of actually sending out the bills. And how are we sending them out? Meaning, are we still printing bills and putting them in an envelope and putting postage on them and then mailing them out? And do we take electronic forms of payment or don't we? And how the best practices associated with getting paid, number one, and getting paid faster. Obviously, those are really important things to be considering. Hey, Mike, sorry about that. I'm just wondering if the link in my email was bad or something.
It may have been an old link.
Weird, because the link in the calendar is the one I resent out. So sorry about that. Glad to have you. We just jumped into the topic. So when we were talking about billing best practices, and everyone, if you weren't able to attend that one, you can go watch the video or listen to the audio or even read the blog recap that's got some well summarized bullets.
It is yet to come out because Paul, the videographer, or our video person, was on vacation. So
It'll be out shortly.
It'll be posted soon.
Yes, yeah, you can go review the billing one. But we were like, you know what? We'd originally had AR slotted for next week, and we were going to be doing social media this week. But we're like, really, collections, it makes sense. Let's do it the week, after we're talking about billing best practices. So, anyway, all that to being said, I thought let's start with, talking about, our AR challenges. Like, you all share, what are some of the challenges that you see, continually within your firm when it comes to collecting payments? Anyone?
I'd also be interested to know how everyone's firm currently does it. If it is a mail process, if it's electronic.
Well, like the payment process and collections. Yeah, speak to that. How do you guys currently collect?
I think Randy's talking without his mic being unmuted.
Oh, Randy.
Oh, he might be talking to someone else though.
Oh.
Yeah, I was on the intercom. Thanks.
Okay.
I have a hearing at 11, and I keep forgetting that the way the federal court does it here is they send you a link with an attachment, which you can only look at it once without logging in. So I have to now go have somebody retrieve that for me.
Oh, no problem. Well, how do you guys currently collect payments?
You asking me?
Sure, since you're unmuted.
How do we collect payments? We don't.
You don't. Perfect.
No, somebody else can answer, or unless
Challenge number one, we don't collect payments.
Yeah.
Anybody else? How do you guys currently collect payments in your firm?
I do online payments through LawPay or checks.
Okay. And do you find that most of your clients pay on time and you don't have much of an issue trying to follow up on getting paid?
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate so far that my clients have been on time. I think I mentioned this last week though, that I give people about a month to pay from the invoice date, and usually before COVID, people usually paid within a couple of weeks. So again, I've been pretty lucky. After COVID, people have been taking closer to that full month to pay.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about in your firm, Erica? How do you guys currently collect payments? Do you do electronic collection of payments or no? Do you find that people typically pay on time? She might not have heard me. She might have had to step away. What about you, AJ?
Yeah, I mean, we will use, we'll do replenishing retainers in a variety of matters. We do accept credit card payments through LawPay. One concern I always have with that is the client's ability to, challenge a payment through their credit card up to generally like 6 months after payment. So we'll do that. And then ACHs and all. So it's all mostly electronic. I mean, we still do receive checks into a lockbox, but try to make it electronic.
Do you find that your clients are doing a good job of replenishing their trust accounts and or paying, when they don't have money in and they owe? Do you find they typically stay on top of it, or do you guys have some challenges there?
I think the challenges are not very often. I think the issues that we've probably observed are when, we let a client get too far ahead of their skis in terms of payments, and then it becomes kind of out of control. And those will generally happen when, there's a client that you've been working with for a very long time, and they're a big client and they spend lots of money, and over time they just end up getting too far behind. So I think that's a practice we're generally discouraging at this point, but otherwise, on a reoccurring monthly basis, I think clients are pretty good about paying.
That's good. I found that in our business, at least, our clients have been, pretty good about paying. But for our clients, a part of our accounting services function, we handle the AR process for our clients. And every law firm is totally different in what their preferences are, right? And how, I'm saying aggressive, I don't really mean that word. I mean how active, that's a better word, how active they want us to be in the trust replenishments and in the collection, of past due invoices. And our methodology is very friendly. I mean, we say all the time, like, we want our customers, clients to like feel like we're their friend, because we know we're going to have to call them in the future potentially to collect again. So the last thing we want is to be making our clients angry or like affecting their brand. And that's a really fine line, right? Of being able to call someone that needs to pay and being empathetic and understanding enough for their situation, maybe why they haven't paid or haven't replenished their trust, but also be assertive enough to get the job done and get paid, right? And get the law firm paid. And we thought it would be cool actually to invite Latrice to be on our call today, because Latrice manages all of that for the legal back office clients. And they all have a different procedure and different process. And so she's sort of molding to whatever, our client's process is. So she can kind of speak to several different clients and how that process looks different. And I thought it would be cool to hear from her and kind of how she handles it and what her tips are and best practices that might be helpful for you all. And then, if you've got some things that might, after what she's talking and saying, you guys might think of, oh yeah, we also actually do this and it works really well. And then we'll have you guys kind of chime back in. So I thought I would have Latrice, why don't you jump in, Latrice, and share like what's been some of your experiences and, and maybe you could speak to both challenges and best practices and what you've seen to work really well.
For sure. Hey everyone. It does sound like several of you are like really doing awesome, and I think that's amazing. I'm excited to hear a little more of like the nitty-gritty of your process. But from my perspective, the first thing like that's super important is like I call it gathering intel from the law firm. Like, why am I actually here in this process? There's a breakdown somewhere, and I want to support, the law firm as best as I can. What procedure do you already have in place? How can I make it better? How can I support it? Data integrity, it's super important. If, we don't have the right name or the right email address, the right phone number, then I can't do my job at all. I can't collect. And if the name is actually the name of, the infirmed, great grandmother, and it's her estate, and I'm using the infirmed great grandmother's name, and we're actually calling the power of attorney, this poses a problem. Like, I throw back to what Jamie was saying about trust. Like, building trust for Jamie means that face-to-face, like, traveling and conversation. And when she passes the baton to me, building trust looks like having very good data and being personable, and so my leading line, I actually pull all of that together and say, good morning, so-and-so. Good morning, client. Use their name. This is Latrice with law firm.
Hey, Latrice, I want to jump in real quick, because something that you said that I want to make sure is emphasized and really powerful is that a lot of times firms don't understand the power of good data. It's garbage in, garbage out, right? Like, if you're putting bad data in, then you're not going to be able to get bad data out. And a lot of times there's a disconnect between the staff who's actually putting the data in and then the people that are using the data. And the staff doesn't always understand how the data is being used. And so when we can, as a firm, I think reiterate, hey, here's how we are using contact information in our software program, and here's the context and why it's really important, then you've got your staff more empowered to understanding the why. So when they're putting information in, they're thinking about it in that context, right? Like e-contact on a case versus accounting contact on a case. Like, how many times have we been reaching out to the CEO of a company who has nothing to do with the accounting function and the payment of the bill? And then the CEO is annoyed with us because we keep like trying to collect on a bill, and finally we learned the accounting contact is somebody completely different, and we could have gotten paid a month ago or whatever. And so I just wanted to re-emphasize that, because I do think data, while it seems like so simple, and you might slough it off a little bit, is incredibly important. And so I just wanted to emphasize the power in that, in not just us understanding it at a leadership level, but trying to help staff and the people that are putting the data into the system, the intake system, the intake people. I mean, they're really critical to that data function. So, anything we can do to help the staff members and the people involved in that to understand the why this data is important. And that's one very good reason why. So carry on. Sorry, I just wanted to give emphasis to that.
For sure. I have data integrity written down 3 times because I'm like, it's that important. Another important thing is to integrate your collections agent into your firm by the pronouns that you use. This one small thing makes the biggest difference. It has made the biggest difference for me. Instead of saying, I'm calling on behalf of them to collect from you. I've integrated myself. I've embedded myself into their firm as a part of their billing department or as the billing department. You can also do good cop, bad cop with that. If someone starts getting, too contentious, then you can easily just, throw it back to the attorney who kind of carries a little bit more authority in the situation. So yeah, my leading line, I pull all of that together, identifying who I am, the law firm I'm calling from, calling the client by name, smiling, using my best customer service and kindness, because inevitably I am the bad guy and I'm fine with that. I don't know if it's ever a good thing that you're calling to collect money from someone. So going overboard in customer service makes the sting, it just kind of lessens the sting of collections a little bit. And yeah, I listen. I use active listening. So if they're in distress, they're sad. Lots of my COVID era calls, first of all, they've lasted significantly longer than the average. Average call is normally 1.5 minutes for me. COVID calls, I would say the average during the beginning of COVID was probably more like 5 minutes. There were some people that just needed to talk. And I was like, I can either be terrible right now and cut them off and rush them and go directly for the kill, or I could build a relationship with this person who, as Jamie mentioned earlier, we're going to have to collect from them in the future. And when they suggest a law firm to someone, they will absolutely remember how I made them feel. And since I'm calling them every week, I don't know how often they're talking to their paralegals, to the assistants, or to the attorneys. I call some of these people twice a week. So, my presentation is important. So yeah, I reflect their emotions, empathize with them, kind of match their energy as much as possible, validate their emotions. And then I establish the boundary. In my leading line, I've already said who I am, where I'm calling from, and what I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm calling, attorney so-and-so has asked that I reach out to you to replenish your trust account. How are you doing today? I'm calling regarding invoice number whatever in the amount of whatever. Is this a good time? Do you have a minute is what I normally say. Not is this a good time? It's never a good time. I always say, do you have a few minutes? And yeah, I've just found that if I'm cheerful, kind, and empathetic, that might be the only kind, cheerful, empathetic voice they hear all day. And when I call them again in 2 days, they're probably going to answer, or at least they won't hang up. Most of the time I'm leaving messages because that's just what day and time it is. That actually makes remote collections a lot easier. It's because most of it I'm emailing, I'm leaving messages, and I'm documenting, which kind of leads me to before documenting, I just want to mention conflict. Again, it's just customer service, de-escalating as much as possible. But if I've already done all of the other things, integrated myself within the law firm, then I've reinforced myself with the strength of all these all-powerful attorneys who are kind of holding some pretty major, they hold a lot of weight in the clients' lives. And if I've already stated, why I'm calling in a succinct way and established that I'm not about to take up a bunch of their time, I've already been empathetic towards them, then it's going to cause there to be a lot less conflict, and it's going to be a lot easier to de-escalate things. And yeah, then taking the payment, which a 16-year-old can do. You know, taking the payment is why I'm there, but it's not the most vital kind of skill that you need, because my nephew could take the information. He's 5. But yeah, so that's kind of the scope of what I do and how I present to do collections successfully.
I think that's great. Thank you for sharing those tips. And I'd love anyone else too to jump in if you feel like you've got some ideas, or if there's anything that Latrice shared that you all do and it works for you successfully too. I mean, I'll kind of open it up if anyone wants to share, or if you want to ask Latrice any questions either too. I mean, this is what she does all day, every day, and specifically for law firms. Like, those are her clients, are law firms. So, anyone questions for Latrice, or like thoughts on that sharing? Are we all just like dead?
I had a question about, you mentioned pronouns and like integrating that. And I used to call for fundraising at a nonprofit. And that was something that was hard for me. The first year calling for a new nonprofit was like, there's some names that are gender neutral and you don't want to offend folks. Is that something that you just ask that attorneys integrate into their system, like having a pronouns or a Miss or Mrs., Mr. in front of things? Or is that just something that you've had to take notes on over time?
I'm referring to like plural pronouns. When I talk about the law firm, I don't say they. Maybe
Oh, got you.
Cat. and I ask them to do the same for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Or, yeah.
I got you.
Well, I think like something too that I would throw out there is like Latrice is particularly good at this sort of work. And I try to tell people all the time too, like it's a skill. You can take some of these tips and tricks and best practices and share them, with whoever's doing the collecting, an attorney or associate or legal staff or whatever. But there's also very much like a personality that does well at this, and a skill that if you're not naturally an empathetic person, a good listener, good at understanding, if you've got kind of a gruff legal assistant that you put in charge of AR, like you're likely going to get worse results. And so I was going to mention that too. Latrice wouldn't say that about herself, but like she's particularly good at those things, and that's her personality. When she's talking to the clients, she does really care about asking them how they are and, how their day is going. And if you get someone on the phone that's not like that, not only could you end up not collecting, you could be making the client even more angry, pushing them to not end up making a payment at all. And you definitely don't want to do that. So I thought it might be worth pointing out too, that who you put in charge or responsible for communicating with the clients in this way is really important and should not be random, and also should be consistent, because they know Latrice now. So they know Latrice is going to be calling them, and they're not surprised when they have to replenish their trust. If they're always getting a call from someone different, you're just going to feel like another collector or like a customer service department, like a call center, And I think that relationship built over time, especially if a case is a year, 2 years, 3 years long, Latrice becomes a member of that team, and that client is used to talking to that person. So the idea of consistency is really good. Where I would say change it up is if you've got a case that's closed and Latrice has done everything she can do and the client's just unresponsive, it is a collections best practice to insert a second voice. It's called second voice in collections. And that's just where another person with another voice might be more successful at collecting the payment, simply because they're like, oh God, I'm exasperated. Latrice has called me 10 times and now I've got this other person calling me. Fine, I'll just pay. It happens all the time. It happens in business too. I talk about it in consulting. You can have someone you guys have probably been in jobs before where you've been giving advice, and leadership's not taking it. Then a consultant comes in and literally says the same damn thing that you've been saying for years. And all of a sudden the consultant's brilliant and is totally changing the face of the firm. Or maybe not the consultant, but the new person, right? The new person that's come in, or the new partner, or the new marketing person, or whatever. And there's something about that second voice that actually can be effective in collections. But I would say, I think that's more effective when the case is closed and, you're just not getting very far, and you're comfortable with, the work that you did. And if the client gets a little bit edgy or irritated at this point, it's okay, right? It's just, we're just trying to get paid for the services that we provided. So I thought I would point that out too, because you might be having someone in the firm or a lot of different people that are trying to collect with the same clients, and that could be getting you bad results as well. Well, and attorneys, I mean, like Mike's in solo practice, so like it makes sense that, Mike would be making sure he's staying on top of his AR, but, it doesn't really make sense for Randy to be spending time on AR. I mean, the value of Randy's time, right? Sometimes the attorney does have to step in. Actually, Latrice, why don't you share that real quick? At what point is it more effective for the attorney's like name or voice to get inserted? Because I know at some point, like you get up against a wall where you're just not getting anywhere, and like the managing partner's name coming in or the lead attorney on that case, what's that time frame that is more effective?
Yeah, it's different. I think it's different for every client, but I'm going to estimate like between 3 to 6 months, depending on the dollar amount and depending on the temperament of the client. There are some people that are just obstinate, and I have a high tolerance for emotion, difficulty, frustration. I have a 0 tolerance for disrespect. So if someone kind of crosses that line with me, then I just immediately punt them to the attorney. And I love what you said, because that second voice for us is like an actual collections agency. Is that correct? Where they actually get moved on.
Sometimes, yes, yeah.
So I'm kind of like the middle woman. And yep, between 3 to 6 months. And of course, integrated within one of our clients' process is alternate voices. It will be my phone call first, then attorney's phone call on week 3, email from me first, email from attorney on week 4. And yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Well, one of the things that we're going to be pushing out, please, if anyone wants to share anything or ask questions, like just jump in and interrupt me. But we're getting ready to push out a case study that we did with one of our clients, and talking to Latrice and the client. It was Sarah with Stock Legal. So for Sarah's firm, when we started working with Stock Legal in the fall of like 18, they had, like $200,000 in AR hanging out there, which was, a good amount of money. And what we had to do was not just take on trying to chip away at that $200,000, but also how do we put a process in place that we know we're collecting consistently going forward, right? Because we got to chip away at this, but also make sure we're not getting further in the hole with the current clients and making sure that they're staying up to snuff. So by the end of 2019, so in like a year and we'll just call it 3 months, right? A year and 3 months, we were able to get her total AR by the end of 19 down to like 60 grand or something like that. Does that sound about right, Latrice? So not only were we able to like chip away at almost all of that existing 200,000 of AR, but then stay on top of all the payments that were coming in the rest of the year, and ending at 60 grand is like phenomenal. And her collection rate was 91%, and we got her up to 98%. And that was all driven by defined process and having the right person in that role that can implement the sort of the processes, but also like the personality that makes this, and you all know this is a really critical function. I mean, getting paid is really critical, is really important. So, for us, it's like, it's a no-brainer. And that's where Sarah got to. Sarah was like, okay, if I'm charging out $300 an hour and I have to spend, 10 hours a month on AR, that's a lot of money I could otherwise be generating in revenue. Well, not only would I not be generating that revenue, but I'm costing the organization, and I'm not necessarily doing as good of a job as someone else could be doing. So it makes a lot of sense to consider, if not outsourcing, clearly we're biased, right? If not outsourcing to their organization, But having someone internally that's a dedicated person, or a legal assistant that has capacity but has a knack for this sort of thing, I mean, the numbers are very clear in the effectiveness in getting the right person to really own this responsibility. And it makes a lot of sense to outsource it. And not all accounting services companies are created equally either, right? I mean, they're not necessarily specific to the legal organization or legal industry. And when they think about AR, they're not really approaching it from like a trust replenishment perspective most of the time. There are not a lot of companies that do that and make those calls. And even if they're calling to follow up on payments, they're not usually doing that aggressively, right? It's usually just a friendly reminder, pay your bill, that goes out every 30 days or something like that. We have found that when you put a process in place that is not annoying to the client, right? You start with every other week, then you move to once a week, right? That consistency is what gets you paid, but they still like us, right? They're still not exasperated or frustrated. But when you let your AR go and you only do a reminder every 30 days, sure as hell you're not going to get paid for 90 days versus you probably could get paid in 45, right? If you stay on them once a week. So I just want to encourage everyone, if you're not already, to consider either a dedicated person within your firm that looks like they would have a knack for this to be following up on your AR, or even considering outsourcing it, because like I said, it's a no-brainer. If you can get those kinds of results, I mean, what you pay out, in your staff member or in an outsourced provider capacity to collect is far less than the amount of money you end up getting back in your own pocket. I mean, you could settle for 91% collection year over year, but how much better is it at 98%? It's money you've already earned. Why not put it right back into your firm or into your pocket? So, well, this has been good. Let's wrap it up here. And, is there any, does anyone have anything else that they wanted to share, or any questions that they wanted to ask, or any resources they wanted to provide? We're going to send out, the case study to everybody in this recording and a blog and everything, like we usually do. So everyone will have those resources, but just thought I'd open it up real quick before we end and hop off. Anything else anyone wanted to share, or questions or anything? All right. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure. And I hope this has been helpful to you all and meaningful. And if you haven't yet, you should go engage with our podcast recordings. They're all pretty short, like 20 minutes. And there's some really good stuff on there. I mean, we're really trying to approach the podcast world and concept in a very different way. So go check out a couple of them, or one or two of them, and hopefully you enjoy it and you start listening on a regular basis. And if any of you ever wants to be, join our podcast and have me interview you, I'd be happy to do that. So we can set that up. All right. Thank you all. Have a great day and your rest of your week.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jamie. Have a good one.
Guys.